Hey everyone, Cheoff Geoff here. Welcome to my kitchen. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the old subscribe button. If you like what you're seeing, give me a big thumbs up. So today's recipe will be posted on chefgeoff.ca. Okay, so if you want to think like a chef, there are times when you got to ask yourself, why use water when you can substitute that with a really flavorful liquid of some kind? So whether that means you're working on a recipe and you see the opportunity to add some water, why don't you try to add some tea or some coffee or or some beer or vegetable broth, beef broth, all those options instead of just plain old water, as long as you're not throwing off your flavor profile. Okay, so let's talk pasta. We've been brainwashed all of our lives to just cook pasta and just salt and water. But today's application, we're going to be cooking this pappardelle in a flavorful brine over here on the stove. So in that use, we're going to be making a shrimp and pappardelle pasta with sun-dried tomato pesto, and we're going to use some of that flavorful broth to build a sauce. So let's get started. Okay, over in this pot here, I've got some vegetable broth. I have some sun-dried tomatoes kind of reheating in there. I got some fresh, that's not parsley, that is rosemary, and a bay leaf and some salt in my pot instead of just plain old water and a little bit of salt. This is good. It's on a boil. I've got some pappardelle noodles, and it's a really nice flat egg noodle, and it's got a really nice eggy kind of texture when it's cooked. And it's one of my favorite pastas to cook, and it takes about 8 minutes or so, 7 or 8 minutes to cook. In we go, and there's always, so actually we'll start our trusty little timer. So there's always a discussion about when do you use oil when you're cooking your pasta. So if you're planning on cooking a whole whack of pasta and saving it and cooking it the next day, don't put oil in your pot. Oil your pasta after it's been drained and cooled. And this way it'll prevent the pasta from sticking together and so forth. You won't have those big tangles of noodles and so forth. And every time I cook pasta, I worked at this Italian place years and years ago. I used to cook, pasta in these giant pots, and I had these big long tongs, and I could never. My chef would always say, you cannot let these things stick together. So I'm always just constantly stirring and keeping an eye on my pasta. All right, we'll be back in about 7 minutes. Okay, we're 7 minutes into the future, and we're just to start building our sun-dried tomato shrimp pappardelle pasta. The pasta's been cooked. I've got some onions going here, but just in the meantime, I'm just going to taste it to see if it picked up any of the flavor of that flavorful broth that we cooked it in. It's delicious. It doesn't taste like plain pasta. You have a little bit of the sweetness from the sun-dried tomatoes, a little bit of herbiness, and the veg stock flavor. Just awesome. Okay, so in my pan here, I've got some oil and a little bit of thin sliced onions. We're going to throw in a generous amount of butter because, as you know, butter makes everything better. We're just going to let these sweat just for a moment, and we'll start cooking our shrimp. So the shrimp we have here is marinated in my all-purpose marinade, and that has been made from just real basic things. I'll put a link in the description box as well. Just some fresh rosemary, herbs, and garlic. It's just a very versatile thing to do. Okay, so we've got things getting a little bit ready to go here. In we go with the shrimp. And these are just 16-20 shrimps. This bag cost me $6. I thawed them in a little bit of water for about 10 minutes and it was ready to go. And man, it just smells so wonderful already. You get that herb and garlic flavor, garlic smell, just lovely. So we're still on pretty high heat. And we're going to deglaze with a little bit of vino, but I haven't added garlic because I do want a little more garlic in there. Just a touch. We're going to add a pinch of salt. Some cracks of pepper. Don't be afraid of pepper, especially with Italian cooking. And we are going to add just some chili flakes. I do want a little bit of heat in this pasta, but not to overtake things completely. All right. This is up nice and high. And I got a little vino, and in this application I'll be using some white wine. Don't use water, you got to use some wine, guys. It's just always the way to go. So we're just going to give it a little splash here and let this reduce down. the sound of deglazing, just the greatest sound in all the kitchens. And these shrimps take no time at all to cook. Once that's in there, we're going to throw in some sun-dried tomato pesto. This is also known as pesto rosso, and it's just a really versatile condiment, and I will put in a link in the description box to that recipe as well. We're just going to let all these flavors come together. We're going to put this on high, and I'm going to reduce it down for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're going to start adding our veg stock. Okay, so now the little secret weapon here is just a cup of that flavorful bread stock that we've cooked our pasta in. So now we got just really like an easy homemade broth that we're building from scratch, and this is going to be a really easy, I was thinking just kind of a midweek meal. This is great for the family, so I'm throwing in some of those sun-dried tomatoes, and now it's time for the pappardelle, and it's a little hot, so we're going to use tongs. Now I'm going to try to flip this, see if I make, oh, there we go. Not a giant mess, that's great. We're going to let this come together real quick. The last little piece is some baby arugula. This is going to add a nice peppery kind of finish to the pasta. It's going to add a little bit of color. And the very last thing we're going to do here is just add just a little bit of lemon juice, just a little bit of acid to balance out all the richness from the sun-dried tomato pesto. We'll let this come together, and we're just about ready to plate. It just smells spectacular in this house right now. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. All right, it smells so great in here right now, guys. So we're just ready to plate. So I've got, we're gonna make our shrimps nice and visible on the plate. Put about 6 or 8 of them on the edge here. Oh, making a mess, good stuff. There we go, good stuff. Okay. So now we're just going to throw a little bit of our pasta, just give it a little twirl. Should stay in place for me, I don't really know. Let's see what happens. There we go. Oh, this just smells spectacular, guys. Quick and easy kind of midweek meal. This is going to go so nicely with the family. Last little bits here is just to get some of the sauce in there. There we go. Perfect. Wouldn't be Italian food with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. So we're going to throw that right on. And just some fresh torn basil. All right. Got dirty hands. Okay, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. We've got a really interesting way to cook some pasta. We got some shrimp sun-dried tomato red pesto. And I'm going to be serving it with some Cave Springs Chardonnay. So for my kitchen and yours, guys, bon appetit.